This is Mark Arnold, author of Think Pink, the Patty Freeling story from Bear Manor Media, and we're watching an Ant and the Aardvark cartoon called Technology Phooey. This cartoon was also directed by Jerry Shinicki, whom I discussed on my other commentary, and it was written by Irv Spector. And Spector was mainly active in animation, working for Fleischer and Famous Studios, and later Hanna-Barbera. He also did some comic book art during the 1940s, working for Timely, which eventually became Marvel, and Charlton. And Doug Goodwin composed the music, and it was performed by bassist Ray Brown, trumpeter Pete Condoli, pianist Jimmy Rolls, trombonist Billy Byers, drummer Shelly Mann, and guitarist Tommy Tedesco. They all got screen credit, which was quite unique for a cartoon during this time. And Goodwin also composed music for the Pink Panther show and some of the shorts. And also Dr. Dolittle, Here Comes the Grump, the Houndcats, the Barkleys, Bailey's Comets, The Bear Who Slept Through Christmas, Hoot Kloot, Tijuana Toads and the Blue Racer, Baggy Pants and the Nitwits, A Pink Christmas, and even some of the Bugs Bunny TV series specials, and some of the ABC After School specials, all produced by Patty Freeling. This cartoon is one of my favorites in the series due to the giggling computer that tries to help the aardvark catch the ant. And John Byner is using his best, it's either Charles Nelson Riley or Paul Lynde type of voice. And he was a very good mimic, as I've said before. This time I'd like to talk a little bit about the animators. Art Leonardi, he started in animation in the late 1950s for Warner Brothers, eventually made the transition to Patty Freeling, and he designed titles or animated on virtually every project they had and continued on as Patty Freeling changed into Marvel Productions. And he still works today and does much charity work for the Ronald McDonald House, and he hosts an annual event with fellow animators. Manny Gould's career in animation stretched back to 1925 for Robert Winkler Productions and Columbia before joining Warner Brothers in the early 1940s. And he worked at Patty Freeling from its start through around 1973 and then passed away in 1975. Manny Perez was a Warner Brothers veteran from 1940, and he left in the late 1950s to work at Hanna-Barbera. And they came back in the mid-1960s to Patty Freeling and did occasional work for Filmation and Ralph Bakshi, and he passed away in 1981. Warren Batchelder worked at Warner Brothers from the early 1940s as an animator and continued on as everyone transitioned to Patty Freeling, and he worked on virtually every project for the company. Later on, he worked again for Warner Brothers and Marvel Productions, then retired in 1990, and he passed away in 2007. Don Williams worked at Warner Brothers from the early 1930s and moved to Disney in the late 1930s. Then he went over to Walter Lantz, and then he came back to Warner Brothers, and then Hanna-Barbera, and eventually to Patty Freeling, where he basically stayed until his death in 1980. And Dick Ung also worked at Disney. He also worked at UPA and Hanna-Barbera before working at Patty Freeling for the rest of his career, and he passed away in 1982. Tom O'Loughlin worked at Warner Brothers and Patty Freeling, and then later for Filmation before passing away in 2007. Also wanted to mention John Burton Jr. He ran the camera at Patty Freeling and later Marvel Productions from 1963 to 1991, and he passed away in 2008. So this cartoon is the fifth Ant and the Aardvark cartoon, originally released theatrically on June 25th, 1969. And it first appeared on TV in the very first episode, The Pink Panther Meets the Ant and the Aardvark, the second Pink Panther series, which is also known as the New Pink Panther Show. And this TV appearance was on September 11th, 1971 on NBC. And this version also contained a laugh track. And incidentally, the Pink Panther and the Ant and the Aardvark never appeared together in the theatrical cartoons and only appeared in a few bumpers made for the TV series. Another thing I should mention is this is a Mirish Patty Freeling production. Previously on the Pink Panther and on the Inspector and the feature films, there was also Jeffrey, which was director Blake Edwards' involvement. Since Edwards had nothing to do with this animated series, his name was taken off. Mirisch's the three Mirisch brothers, Harold, Marvin, and Walter, who helped produce this and all the other DePatie Freeling theatrical series, and a few of the TV ones. Just want to mention the film editor was Lee Gunther, and he eventually took over as head of Marvel Animation after David DePatie retired in 1984. Just want to say, one of the reasons I like this cartoon is the inventions like this ant stamping foot machine. Quite funny. And ultimately, he gets attacked by his own machine. And then this film has a very, very silly punchline, but I still love it.
And by the way, as a computer, you stink!
Who said I was a computer? I'm an automatic pop-up toaster, and I'll prove it.
Anybody got a pound of butter?
There we go. And that's it. This is Mark Arnold, author of Think Pink, the DePatie Freeling story, signing off.